How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Marvel Movies Podcast. Once again, we already recorded for this episode, but of course, the laptops love fucking us over, so we're gonna be doing it again. Today, we're doing it like our normal setup this time, talking about X-Men First Class. So, we're gonna try our best to, go beat for beat for what we did last time instead of just doing, a abridged version like we did for X-Men Origins, because this movie's actually really good, so it doesn't deserve to just be left in the dust. So we're gonna do our best to go over what we did last time and about this movie, because it was actually a good X-Men movie. So thank God for that.
Surprised.
Yeah. Because every other X-Men movie lately makes us want to jump off a cliff, so it's nice that this one was a nice change of pace. This movie came out in 2011 and pretty much saved the X-Men franchise, I'd say. So, really happy about that. And actually, before we get into this video proper, Ethan, do you want to say your disclaimer about the future of the podcast before we begin?
Yes. You put me on the spot. I didn't think it through. Alright, so me and Damon really love making this podcast, but, obviously we have technical difficulties all the time.
Yeah.
So we want to make this as enjoyable for everyone else to watch as it is for us to make it. So we really want to make this podcast much, much better. And right now, we are sitting in two different rooms, not even facing each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, if there is anyone who knows a way to make it so, it sounds better and we can, sit across from each other without having to, do shit tons of editing to make it so we don't hear echoes of our own voices, please let us know, because, like I said, we enjoy making this podcast. So we just want to make it, enjoyable for everyone to watch. So if anyone knows how to make it any better, please leave suggestions down below, because I really want to make this a good podcast, because it's so fun to make. So.
So yeah, that would be very, very helpful. Thank you all.
Yes.
Alrighty. So, with that out of the way, we're gonna quickly overall thoughts of the movie. We both watched it yesterday, but it's still pretty fresh in our minds. This movie, extremely good. Actually, not even lying. This one's actually really good. So,
yeah.
Really happy about that. Like I said earlier, it saved the franchise pretty much. Basically gave way to the rest of the movies in the series. And again, not all of them are good, but they don't really get as awful as Origins. So, thank God for that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is definitely a movie I'd watch over and over again, because it's just so enjoyable to watch, so.
Yeah.
Big
watching it the whole time. Yeah, seriously. It's like watching it the whole time. It's like, oh my God, I'm invested. I'm not wanting to die. Let's go. It's awesome. Alright. We're gonna get into the main positives for the movie. So the first positive that I had is that I think that Magneto was a fantastic main character. It's kind of like a bounce between Professor X and Magneto. They're both basically the main characters, but for me personally, I think Magneto was the main character, because he was basically his main villain and stuff like that. And Michael Fassbender did a fucking phenomenal job as Magneto, so I thought he was a great addition to the movie.
Yeah, and going off of that, I do like their it's obviously an origin movie, so you're seeing them as at the beginning as young kids who have two very different lives, but who are also both learning about their abilities. So it's great to see them it's weird to say great for Magneto's point, but it's good to see that they actually went into an actual background of how how they got their powers and how they connect with all the other characters in the movie. So it was a really good story writing thingy. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I get
It was good story writing.
Yeah, they did a really good job actually like making a compelling origin for these two.
Yeah.
And again, like we were saying last time, I do think that this movie was benefited a lot from not just having it be like X-Men Origins Magneto, X-Men Origins Professor X, because Fox was planning on making their whole origin series. They were going to start with X-Men Origins Wolverine, then move on down to X-Men. Like, I think they were planning on doing Magneto next, and then from then on, like, X-Men Origins Professor X, Cyclops, Jean Grey, and shit like that. And again, extremely glad they didn't go down that rabbit hole, because to be honest, like, X-Men Origins Professor X probably would have been extremely boring, because it's just nothing, so it's like you kind of need him with the team. So I'm really, like I said, it's really a good thing that Wolverine sucked, because Fox realized, like, oh crap, we can't do that, so then they decided to just merge, like, the Origins, Magneto, and Professor X into, like, one movie, and I think this movie extremely benefited from that. Like, it would not have worked if it was just a Magneto or just a Professor X movie.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny to think that the failure of one movie created the success of this one. So
seriously though, like that stuff's always so good when that happens. I mean, it's not good when a movie sucks, but it's good when they actually learn from their mistakes. Marvel.
Yeah, definitely.
MCU. Oh, sorry.
Damn, you good?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine.
Just throwing up my soul right now.
What else did you have for positive?
Well, I was gonna say that the connections between all the characters was a huge step up from what they've done in the past. Like, these characters actually had emotional connections, and they have a past together, so you can see that bond that some of the characters have throughout the movie. The one issue. It's funny, I already said this, like, in the past recording, so again, we have to go through all this again.
Yeah.
But, the one issue I had with their connections is Mystique and Professor X. Like, they've known each other for, like, most of their lives, so you think they'd be much closer than they are. But, like, their views are just so different that when you look at them as a character, they don't act as characters. They don't really, flow together as much as I'd like for them. They've known each other for however long, since, I don't know, like, they looked 8 at the beginning, so we'll say they've known each other since they were 8. So it's really weird to see how different they are. Like, they have completely different views, but I mean, that's normal, obviously, but it's just weird to see how they are so connected but also so different. I don't know, it just felt weird watching it, because then you forget throughout the movie that they've known each other most of their lives. And also also they just act completely different, so you can also barely tell that they're the same age sometimes.
Yeah, because he's so much more mature.
Yeah. Like, Mystique was partying and goofing around, and then Professor X comes in like this disappointed dad, so it was just kind of a weird relationship that I thought could have been better, but honestly didn't take away from the movie at all, so not really complaining. It's just something that could have made the movie better than it already is, so.
And I don't know if it's canon or not in the comics, if, like, they were siblings, because I'd never heard of that before until this movie, and I've never heard about it since. So it's just like, they definitely had to have just made it up for the movie, because I'd never heard about it before. And I think their relationship was really weird. Like I said before, it's they didn't feel like siblings, because a lot of the time, like, she would say, "Hey, would you fuck me?" And it's like, whoa, what the hell, bro? And then she'd walk around naked and stuff, and it's like, that's kind of weird. That's your brother, bro. So it was just like, I mean, again, I know it's not, but It's just like you
Right.
guys basically were siblings. Like you grew up together since like you said they were like 8 or something. So it's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
kind of odd, and it's funny because like it's not really like anything. Not a. It's just something I noticed. I think it's funny. It's like, is she like when she's has no clothes on? Is that considered naked for her? Because like you can't see anything. So it's just funny because like sometimes she has clothes, sometimes she doesn't. But like it's just it's weird. I don't know. I
Yeah,
thought that was
it's funny
funny.
you should it's funny you should say that because I was like replaying the movie in my head just between the first scene where she's technically naked as a child,
Yeah,
which
it's
is
like
eh, and then you cut to the future where Charles is like looking away, and then
Yeah.
Mystique she pulls out this banger line. I don't remember what it was actually, but she's saying how if it was fine as when she was a kid, which is
Yeah,
weird, but
I know. It's like,
great. Thank you for that.
I know.
um,
Yeah, that's not what you said when you
but-
first saw me. Okay.
whoa.
Yeah. It was weird.
Well, I mean, again, that's like the only complaint I have about Connections because the characters just flowed so well.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, like every character basically had really good chemistry with each other, which was going into one of my positives. God, my hair's getting all in my face. Is a big positive because like in the other X-Men movies, like no one had any connection. Like you and I
Yeah.
all the time were like, "Hey, are Cyclops and Jean married? Like, are they, like who knows? Like you can't even tell.
what's happened with them?
Yeah, seriously, like you can't even tell like what kind of relationship they have, even though they're supposed to be in like a nice loving relationship. So like you could never tell with anybody. Like you didn't care
Yeah.
about any of the X-Men. The only ones you did care about were Wolverine and Professor X.
Right.
So it was a nice set in this movie. Everyone had like great chemistry with each other. Like especially Magneto and Professor X were like amazing together, and it was nice
Oh,
that
yeah.
I cared about every single X-Men.
Yeah, that's another thing. They made the characters actually likable, and you wanted them to succeed and not get hurt or anything. So
Yeah.
like watching throughout the whole movie, you're like, well, I mean, obviously we've seen this movie before, but it had some level of suspense to it because you didn't
Yeah.
want anything bad to happen to the characters. So, I mean, which is a huge step up from previous X-Men. Like you said, we didn't actually care about the characters; they were just there.
Yep.
But with all the connections and they like show emotions, so they're like they're not just people on a screen. They're actual.
Yeah.
That you can see that they have emotions. So, you actually form a connection with them. Kind of, it's weird
Yeah,
to say that,
seriously.
but it's kind of what's happening. But
Yeah, because I care about
Yeah.
every single one of these characters, even Darwin, even though he was barely even in it. I had a really nice connection with him, so it just it's nice to finally have a team of X-Men that like everyone contributes to the team in some way, where it's not like a
Yeah.
rogue situation where she's just there and does nothing. Like it's
Yeah.
actually like it's like everyone has something to do. So it's just
Right.
like really nice that they finally were able to make an X-Men team that was able to work as a team,
yeah, definitely.
which is like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Because like when Cyclops and Jean Grey died, we were just like, oh well, that's something that happened, whatever. But if like Banshee died, I'd be like, no.
Yeah, 'cause it was also cool to see like not well. I don't know how mainstream the characters were at the time, but you don't go around hearing about Banshee and
Yeah.
Havoc. So it was cool that they took some obscure characters and put them on the big screen, which I think paid off really well because it was really cool to see them, and they actually had some decent screen time. They weren't just shoved to the back. So it was really cool to see that. But
Yeah.
another thing I wanted to bring up was character development because I think that was another thing that they really did well in this movie is you see it in Mystique a lot of how in the beginning she didn't like hiding her appearance, but she always thought she had to. And then after meeting Magneto, you saw her change the way she was thinking, and how why should she have to hide what she actually looks like. So it was really cool to see how she like changed the way she thinks throughout the whole movie, while also being on Charles's side most of the time, just because they were raised together. So it was kind of a weird thing where she was in a position where she either leaves Charles or doesn't go with Magneto. So that's kind of what I saw from it, but also they did a really good job, because again, that's not something you see in previous X-Men movies. So.
Yeah, no, you never see character development. It was nice. It definitely was nice to finally have like some sort of like human Mystique, if that makes sense. Because in all the other movies, she was just Magneto's right-hand woman who was just strong and shapeshift, and I'm basically just a killer. I have no real personality. So I thought it was nice. Again, I liked her in those movies. She was definitely the best part of those movies whenever she was on screen. But like, it was nice to humanize her in a way, and it didn't take away from her character, I think. Like, again, it was weird seeing her kind of be like a young party chick, but again, that's just like it is fun to be like, oh, that's how you were. That's pretty cool to see. So I thought and again, I love what's her? Oh my God, I say I love her and I forget her name. Jennifer Lawrence. Yeah, I love Jennifer Lawrence and everything she's in. Anyway, I think she's a fantastic actress. So it's just really cool to have her be this character. And the only bad thing about Mystique, I'll say, and again, for this whole video, we're basically going to be mixing like the positives and the mixed, because we really don't have any negatives for this movie, and even like all the mix that we have isn't that bad, so it's like it's not really that big a deal. But the only like bad part about Mystique is that she doesn't look very good. Like she looks fine, but like there's something with like the eyes and like the way her face looks is just kind of weird to me, because in like the original like it looked like Rebecca Romijn had just had like contact lenses in, but in this one it looks like definitely CGI, so it kind of takes you out of it for a little bit. Again, she doesn't look awful. Like, there's another character who looks fucking awful in this movie, but she looks
hey, coincidence.
fine.
They're both blue.
Yeah, I know. But she looks fine, I guess. Thankfully, in the next one, I think she looks perfect. But just in this one, she doesn't look very good, I think.
Honestly, I think for me, it might just be the hair. It feels weird, like they might be trying to copy previous Mystique too much, but I mean, it's fine, I guess. I mean, it's I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, definitely the wig is really whack. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what
it just doesn't suit her, I guess. It's just some people can pull it off and some people can't, obviously, so she just couldn't pull off that wig, I think.
Yeah, they definitely did a good job in the next one, because in the next one she kind of has like her hair up, kind of.
Oh, okay.
So it seems like, oh, okay, that looks so much better, because that's what Rebecca Romijn had. Like, her hair looked like it was up, so it was like, oh, that's good.
Yeah.
But speaking of designs, like, I will say that the designs, like their suits at the very end were like classic, because like that's how the original X-Men suits were back when they first appeared. So I thought that was really cool that they incorporated that in there. So that was nice.
Yeah, it was definitely also the modifications that they made to the suits just for the individual people.
Yeah.
To suit their powers, obviously. Although the one thing that I did notice is that Havoc's like channeling device came off way too easily.
Yeah,
so
I know.
I thought that was
like,
funny. Yeah, honestly, and it looked like a crappy design just because it left just the hole in the shirt. Like, it didn't look like there was anything holding it there to begin with, or if it was like attached to any other wires or anything. It just looked like he took a plate off his chest.
Yeah, seriously.
So it was kind of weird.
It's like, way to go, Hank. Way to go.
Yeah. Yeah, that one wasn't the best suit design, but it was also cool to see how they, incorporated what they needed into their suit design. So
Yeah. Yeah,
and
like for
also
them and Banshee.
yeah, another thing, going off of their individual powers, like it was great to see how like they didn't start off with great knowledge of their powers, but throughout the movie you could see obviously there was a whole montage of them getting stronger and learning their abilities, but also you can see throughout the movie them getting stronger and more knowledge of their powers, which I honestly thought was a smart decision because it's an origin movie and they shouldn't know how to master their powers yet. So that was good to see. But another thing is that they did show the powers like in a great way. Like it was cool to see how Havoc, since he is Cyclops' brother, it was cool to see how they have the same energy, but they use it differently. And it was cool to see how they like kept the original red energy design from the first X-Men with Cyclops, eye beam or whatever. And it was cool to see how they had the same colors and kind of energy design. So the whole CGI of their powers was amazing. You could obviously it's CGI, so it's CGI, but it was also cool to see because you couldn't really tell that it was CGI. So
yeah, like unlike Wolverine's claws in the last movie. So
I've almost forgot about that.
Yeah, it was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought everyone's powers, they did a fantastic job. Like all like the action scenes with them, like especially during like the montage and like the final fight were really cool. Like Banshee's I thought was awesome. Like his was really cool, like being able to fly and stuff. Havoc, like you said, was really cool. Every fight scene with Magneto was beautiful. Like I loved it so. And like I was saying last time, like it was. Again, I love both Magnetos, like Ian McKellen and Michael Fassbender. But in the previous trilogy, like as much as I loved Ian McKellen, he's an old guy, so he can't really be so mobile. So like whenever he did use his powers, he would mostly either just like not move at all or like only slightly move his hands. But in this one, since Michael Fassbender is so young and agile, he was able to like do like barrel rolls and stuff and like fling his arms around and like throw stuff together like super like action packed and shit like that. So it was just like so cool to see him be so mobile and throw shit around. And I think like my favorite like scene of his in the whole movie was when he was at that bar and like he like stabbed that guy's hand, threw the knife at some other guy, used his powers to catch the knife and stab the guy in the hand again. Like that was just so fucking cool.
Yeah, it was really how fluid it was. What really made the scene. So I completely understand what you're saying. Like it really was cool because he could, do so much more with his body because obviously he's much younger. So it was really just cool to see his flow of motion and how he interpreted his use of his powers. So. It was really cool to see that. So although I will say one thing that really annoyed me about Professor X is that he always put his fingers to his temple, like
every time he
like
used
he
his
doesn't
powers.
he doesn't need to do that. He just wanted to because
he's like, ooh, I gotta show that I'm using my powers. It's just like really funny.
It was one minor detail I noticed like the whole time because it looks so dumb because it's like the cliche psychic thing. Yeah, it was really
I don't know if I said this last episode actually, but I was looking up like fun facts and shit, and this was so funny. So apparently, James McAvoy was cast as Professor X, and he was so excited that he shaved his head. And then the people came up to him like, "Oh no, wait, you need you need to have hair."
You need hair.
Yeah, so the whole movie he's wearing a wig.
Funny.
So it's like oh my god, that poor bastard.
Well, now that we're on the topic of fun facts, I know it's not going to be as a big surprise to you now, since we've already recorded this, but
Yeah.
the Logan cameo, Logan's fuck off line or whatever, that wasn't in the original script, so when they came up to him and introduced themselves, when he said fuck off or whatever, it just literally shocked them. They forgot their lines, so they just left. That's
awesome.
how that scene was made. It was so funny because going into it, I knew that was what was gonna happen, so it kind of added to the funniness of it. So.
Yeah, once you told me, that was so fucking funny. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was nice, and again, it was cool that he cameoed in it because it made complete sense. So it was nice, and again, it was cool that like they didn't like rely on Wolverine in this movie, because in the previous movies it was like, oh, it's basically just Wolverine and the other guys who are here with him because you didn't care about anybody. So it was nice for them to finally be like, okay, we're gonna have an X-Men movie with the actual X-Men. We're not gonna have it be just a Wolverine show. We're gonna make it every X-Men. So I thought they did a really good job not relying on just one person. Because even though the main characters are Magneto and Professor X, everyone still has something to do, and it doesn't feel like it's forced or anything. It's just like, oh yeah, these are the main characters and these are the other main characters, which I think is how X-Men should be. So it's just like they do a really good job with it.
Yeah, definitely, since, X-Men isn't about one person, it's about a whole team, so...
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is basically, like, prototype Avengers level stuff, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Because, like, again, we're not two Avengers yet, but in that movie, you could understand it more because each of them had, like, a movie beforehand. And it still worked, but in this one, no one really had a movie beforehand except for, like, Magneto and Professor X. And even then, it wasn't those actors, so you didn't really know. So it was nice that they were able to, like, build up a relationship between a team and the leaders and have it be, like, believable in just one movie. Like, I think that's, like, Jesus. Like, that's awesome how they're able to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. What next? Yeah. I did want to bring up that I love how they didn't take out Professor X in the first few minutes, because he's obviously a main character of this movie. So the way they did it, by using Emma Frost's diamond ability to hurt him when he tried to read her mind, and also the helmet, that really it was a good way to nerf him without taking him out of the movie. So I'm really glad they did that, because you got to see him do so much more. He literally trained up everyone there. And then he was also able to do more stuff, like in the final fight too. So it was really cool to see that, because in previous movies we barely got to see him do anything.
Yep.
Because he's such a powerful character that they had to obviously take him out. But I think that this way they were able to, show him do things without, making him, I don't know, making everyone else so much more powerful than him, I guess. But like I said, it was really good to see him actually do stuff in this movie, because he hadn't before, so...
Like in every other movie, he either just got taken out by some weird goo in his head or just died. So it's like, oh, thank God he finally did something. And yeah, like you said with the Emma Frost stuff, it was really nice that they gave him like his own kind of like enemy, instead of just having her show up and be like, ooh, psychic attack, you're dead. And it's just like, it's nice that didn't happen. So we finally got to see him do stuff, and we got to see how he lost his legs, so that was nice. We didn't really touch on that last time, but we got to see the origin of how Professor X became a cripple, so that was nice. And again, it is funny about the continuity errors, because in X-Men Origins he was walking, and that was in the 80s, and this is in the 60s, and that's how he lost his leg. So it's like, that's kind
Yeah,
of weird.
there's so many things wrong with the X-Men timeline.
Yeah.
It's hilarious, but
Seriously though. But
oh
yeah,
well.
again, I try to ignore X-Men Origins Wolverine, so this is like, yeah, this is fine.
Yeah, especially since Emma Frost was in that one too.
Yeah, she was as like
As-
a little girl,
as
so it's like
little kid, yeah.
Like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
It's
and
funny.
another thing is that Emma Frost's CGI in this movie was, I think, the worst one out of all of them. Just
Yeah.
because she was just a giant diamond.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say it is a huge step up from X-Men Wolverine Origins or what, blah, blah,
Yeah.
because in that one she was just a bunch of studded diamonds and
Yeah.
it looked terrible. So
Yeah, like it legit looked like they like looked up diamond background PNG on like Google
Really,
and
they
then
did.
just photoshopped it onto her. Just like that looked
honestly,
terrible.
that's really what it did look like.
Yeah. It was weird. X-Men First Class is my least favorite movie now. So you can't see my face anymore because the second half of the recording wanted us to not be shown. So now we're gonna have to do it the second part again. So yippee,
Yep.
we're in here now.
Third time re-recording.
Yay!
That's always fun.
Heckin' love X-Men. Okay. So we think the last thing we talked about was like all the main characters. So now we're on to like Kevin Bacon. So now it's our third
Yeah.
time talking about how good of a villain Kevin Bacon is.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Yeah. So
Anyway.
how'd you feel about just whatever his name is, Kevin Bacon?
Yeah. Well, as I've said 2 times already, um, I really enjoyed him as a villain because he was actually really good, and he, you know, oh fuck. All right, well that didn't come out right.
He's a great villain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
guys. It's kind of sick of
Yeah.
talking about this movie now.
All right, so he's a good villain. It's X-Men. You don't really get to see big villains because it's always the three sides of government versus the X-Men versus the Brotherhood. So that's usually all you see in X-Men movies. But in this one, we have Shaw as mastermind behind nuking the world. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Even though his plan is really stupid because he's gonna
Yeah.
nuke the planet to get mutants, because that's how that works, evidently.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So, yeah, he has a genius plan of nuclear war and
Because that's always
white.
nice.
Yeah, yeah, of course. And I, man, I'm tired. All right, well,
Oh, that's nice.
I did want to make the comparison. Like, I think you brought this up when we did it the second time. How Magneto in the first movie kind of had a similar plan, but not ending the world plan, but creating mutants, where mutants are the only humans in existence. So yeah, they had similar plans, and obviously that stems from uh Magneto. Oh my god, my brain is not working.
Oh, that's
Oh,
nice.
right.
No, I get what
Magneto.
you're trying to say.
Yeah. But Magneto at the end of the movie realizes Shaw's plan and, likes his idea. He completely agrees with everything Shaw says, but, obviously still kills him because he killed his mother. So, yeah.
Yeah, I
So
thought that
that's what
was a
that.
good comparison.
Yeah. And I feel like that's maybe something that they thought of, like, oh, Magneto's first plan. So they're like, oh, maybe if we have Shaw do this, then we can set up Magneto.
Yeah.
So
And I thought,
yeah.
I hope they did that because that like fits really well. So I think that'd be pretty snazzy.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he was a really good villain. Really enjoyed him. His death was really awesome. Like we haven't talked about that
Yeah,
surprisingly. So
yeah, that's true.
yeah, like the coin Magneto was like, "Yeah, you killed my mom, even though I agree with everything you said. You still killed my mom, so I'm gonna kill you." So he uses the coin that
Yeah.
Kevin Bacon said told him to move, and he wasn't able to as a kid, so that's why he shot his mom. So he uses that
Hmm.
same coin to push through his skull, and I thought
Yeah.
that was really cool, especially
Yeah.
because Professor X could feel it. So it's like,
Yeah, that was funny too.
mm,
But yeah, it was really good to have a callback to that because it shows what was driving Magneto this whole time.
mhm,
Um, so another thing that was good about this movie in
yeah,
the sense of character development that
mhm,
sense is his whole reason for trying to kill Shaw was for what he did to him in his childhood.
mhm,
So, and it was good to see that they didn't completely abandon that once he joined
yeah.
up with Professor X. That he didn't just completely change as a human. So,
Yeah, exactly. Like it's nice that he kept like his own ideals. Like sure he was one of the founding X-Men, but
hmm
at the same time it's like, yeah, I'll join you guys, but legit I'm only joining you so I can kill this dude. So
yeah, that literally what he said at the
yeah.
beginning. So,
So that was really cool. Again, love the
hmm
character development for everybody here. Like even though Magneto did develop as a character, like he especially had a amazing friendship with Professor X,
yeah.
which is definitely more than a friendship. Let's not talk about
Oh,
that.
oh
Let's
yeah,
not talk
yeah,
about
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
yet.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, it was nice to see that he was able to develop but still keep his core beliefs instead of him
Yeah,
just being a completely different character. So that was
yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, what else did we not talk about? I don't know.
Well, we did make the comparisons to Marvel now, and that can take a little bit to talk about.
Yeah, we've talked about it twice now, but that way third time's a
Y-
charm. Why not?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so we talked about like the humor of this movie
Yep.
because this humor is funny, like actually
hmm
funny
hmm
humor compared to how comedic the Amazing She-Hulk is.
Oh yes, yes. The twerk is funny show. So
Uh,
yeah, basically, I know we've said this, but no one knows. Um, the characters in this movie have their own unique humors to them. Like it's not all everyone making the same jokes over and over again. It's just the characters being themselves
Mhm,
and being original and having their own humor. So seeing that and then comparing that to today where everything needs to be the same thing,
mhm.
and also Marvel's just it's weird saying it for the third time because at this point I'm like, oh fuck it.
Yeah.
But like Marvel now is like playing to what everyone wants or what everyone does in you know today's society.
Mhm,
So they'll go around, I don't know, maybe looking at the internet or something, looking at what people like and what people don't like, and then putting that into their show. And instead of making an original story about the actual character and
making
what
it
the
good.
character does, because at this point no one cares about She-Hulk for She-Hulk.
Mhm.
Their character. Yep, yeah. Sorry, I had to something in my throat.
Ah, you're good.
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. So they're watching She-Hulk to see all the
Daredevil.
cameos and no, not for the original She-Hulk. So
Mhm.
it sucks that we can't see an original story anymore because all of Phase 4 has been set up for something in the future.
And who
So
knows
all
if that's
the
even gonna be good.
yeah. So and like all these characters that have been shown in Phase 4 like are throwaway at this point because no one's going to care about them after this phase because their shows were terrible.
Mhm.
So like there's no point of sticking around to see these characters grow because they're not even the focus point of their own show. So,
Mhm.
there's it's just being ruined by today's society,
Yeah.
which is just fucking Gen Z humor, which I hate.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this for the third time. I hate my generation. So,
Yeah.
ugh,
Yeah, it is ridiculous how awful modern Marvel has gotten. And again, there are some things that are good about it, but
mhm,
mainly like out of everything in Phase 4, I've only liked the new Spider-Man and Shang-Chi pretty much. Those are like
yeah.
the only two things that I actually liked. Everything else was either like okay or made me actually want to blow my own head off. So,
Yeah, honestly, I forgot Loki was Phase 4.
oh yeah, Loki too. Yeah, me too. Loki was pretty good. I like that one.
Yes, Loki was, I think, the only show I could stand except for Hawkeye. But
Yeah, same here. And even Hawkeye like didn't end
I know,
good, so that's the only
no,
reason why I couldn't say it was great.
yeah, but
But yeah, everything
all the
else,
rest of it is,
yeah, awful. So
yeah.
again, saying this again, this leading back to First Class, Marvel
Yeah.
needs their own First Class because First
Yes.
Class was the movie that saved the X-Men franchise.
Hmm.
3 and Origins were awful, and then this movie came along, and then X-Men franchise got saved. So Marvel definitely needs to learn from this movie. Like they need to take a cue from what Fox did instead of just making things that everyone wants to see and making like an
Hmm.
actual good story. Because I don't think
Yeah.
anybody was like, "Oh, we want to see a prequel with Banshee and Darwin and
Yeah.
yeah, Havoc." Who the hell are the like? No one knew who those people were. Like
Right.
Fox took a risk and like, okay, we're gonna make an X-Men team with Magneto and Professor X and Mystique, but then no one else you know. And
Hmm.
somehow we're gonna make these characters extremely more compelling than the original X-Men cast,
Yeah, I know.
which is like, damn, they did a good job. Because again, no one cares about Cyclops and Jean Grey in the movies. They're awful characters. Storm
Hmm.
is an okay character, but she still kind of sucks. Rogue was okay in the first one, then did nothing. Iceman was pretty cool, but pretty much
Yeah.
everyone else was awful, and you didn't care about any of them. So Fox decided, like, oh, okay, so let's actually make good characters so people care. And again, like, not all of them are like super compelling characters, but they're characters that are insanely enjoyable to watch. Like
Yeah.
Banshee's enjoyable, Havoc, Darwin for the short amount of time he's on screen, like Angel. Like Angel was
Hmm.
kind of like hit or miss, but she was still like there. So it's like, oh,
Hmm.
whatever. Like she at least had some sort of compelling reason to keep going, and that's just because she hates being looked at as a mutant. Like she'd rather be looked at naked than looked at as a mutant. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, they're compelling characters. And this is something that Fox did really well because they're like, oh crap, we can't just rely on the X-Men name anymore because that
Hmm.
doesn't work. So it's really such a good thing that they decided to actually try for a movie instead of just relying on the X-Men name. And that's something that Marvel needs to learn to do now
Yeah.
because just the Marvel name isn't going to pull in people anymore. Because just because She-Hulk has Marvel doesn't mean people are gonna be like, oh, it's Marvel, so I need to watch it. Because like every week, I'm like, why am I watching this? Like,
Yeah.
like I'm not even watching it. I'm just skimming through it, trying to like see like when Daredevil's
On.
gonna show up. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, and I did that. I've been doing that for the past few Marvel series. Like I did it for Miss Marvel too. Like I watched the first episode, was like, okay, this is all right, and then the second episode, I'm like, nope, and then I just skimmed the rest of the show because it's just like not not compelling. So it's like
Hmm.
everything that they're making, I'm like, I don't care about any of this. Like, so please just, they need to take a cue and just actually try for their stuff now. Because if they don't, then no one's gonna watch. Because if First Class ended up terrible,
Hmm.
X-Men would probably just not exist anymore.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing that it did. And I feel like if Marvel doesn't take the cue soon, because right now I'm pretty much done with the Marvel shows. Like I'm still gonna check them out, of
Yeah.
course, but I'm not gonna have any like expectations anymore. Cause like I
Yeah.
was excited for them. Like I WandaVision I thought was good. Falcon Winter
Hmm.
Soldier was kind of eh. Again, WandaVision finale was absolutely abysmal, but like Falcon Winter Soldier is kind of just boring. Loki was good, but then like every other show has been like ranged from alright to like makes me want to die. So
Yeah.
especially this year, like all three of the shows this year were just absolutely abysmal. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like I'm kind of just done with them now. And that's a shame because who knows, like the others might be good, like Secret Invasion might be really good, but I'm gonna go into it being scared because all the other shows suck.
Yeah,
And
well, yeah, I should say maybe that's gonna boost the show if it's
yeah,
good at all, because
seriously.
going into with low expectations is gonna make the
hmm
greatness of it so much better. But
Yeah, and I mean
that
maybe that's
that
Marvel's
is
plan, but
not. Well, I sure hope it's not, because
yeah, I
that's a
know.
terrible plan.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get you. Like, I to sum up what you basically said is that
hmm
Marvel is falling into the same trap that X-Men started in,
hmm
of where using the Marvel name and just thinking that it will work, which, like you said, is clearly not.
hmm
So it sucks to see, obviously, and it's also funny to see that they're not learning from something that's, already happened to a
Yeah.
Marvel company before.
I know, it's so weird.
Like, you've witnessed a failure, almost failure, of a whole series,
hmm
um and you're following in that series footsteps.
Yeah. It's like,
It's not, not
makes
a
sense.
not a great plan there.
Yeah.
But hopefully, um with Black Panther coming out soon, that um it hopefully it's better than I'm expecting it to be, because I'm going into this movie with so low expectations that I'm
hmm
not even gonna. I don't even know. It's just, I'm not looking forward to it at all, but
Yeah.
hopefully the movie can change my mind. But I
Yeah.
just want this phase to be over, honestly.
Legit though, like again, like not I hate to deviate too far away from first class, but again, sorry guys, we've talked about this like 3 times in a row now, so it's nice to just move. We got to move on to something a little different, but pretty much like the core Marvel stuff. Like again, us rewatching Phase One right now was showed that like yeah, Phase One kind of sucked. Like oh, there's
Hmm.
only a few good movies, but from what I remember, like Phase Two and Phase Three are great. Like I
Hmm.
don't hate any movie really except for like Captain Marvel, and that's pretty much
Yeah.
it. But they all felt like good movies. Like yeah, these are really cool, and that's made us Marvel fans. Um,
Hmm.
and then this whole phase has legit just been so awful that it's just like now that it's ending, we're like, oh, thank God, because this
Yeah.
phase has just been just a giant pile of crap for the most part. That's like, okay, we need to move on from this. We need to go somewhere. Because it's
Yeah.
just if we can't take like I remember like when they announced at like the Comic-Con a couple months ago when they said that Black Panther would be rounding out Phase 4, I was disappointed because I was like, oh, I was expecting like some sort of like Avengers movie to round
Yeah.
out Phase 4 or something. Because that's again, every other phase been wrapped out by an Avengers movie for the most part. So it's like, oh, I was expecting something like that. And
Hmm.
I mean, part of me was like, oh, that sucks. I want this phase to go on longer. But then there's another part of me that's like, oh no, if this phase ends quicker, then we don't need to talk about it ever again. We can just move on to
Right.
good stuff. And that's why it's kind of like I'm happy that it's ending with Black Panther. And again, like I said earlier, like I I'm cautiously optimistic for Black Panther. Like I hope
Hmm.
that it's good, but I'm very expecting it not to be. Like
Yeah.
it's like I want it to be really bad because I want it to be a good tribute to Chadwick Boseman, of course.
Hmm.
But I just have that feeling that it's Marvel, modern Marvel now. So it's kind of like I'm worried that they're gonna completely ruin the movie. And I hope that they
Yeah.
don't. I don't want to wish bad on it. I'm not wishing bad on it. I really wish that it turns out good. But
Yeah.
it's like the track record that they've made lately is just like I'm not like I don't expect it to be good, even though I want it to be. And
Yeah.
that's sad. It's really sad.
Hmm. Yeah. What I was gonna say, I think I said this before, but Black Panther, like, I watched the trailer recently, so sorry if I spoil anything for anyone. But Ironheart's in it, obviously, so I'm kind of afraid for that because then that could also mean that they're like, oh, we're gonna use Black Panther to set up Ironheart,
Yeah.
and if they do that, then you just took away from Black Panther being its own movie.
Yeah.
So like setup in Marvel movies has always consisted of um end credit scenes. That's what I was thinking of. It's from my knowledge. That's mostly what setup
Yeah.
Marvel's used in the past. But
Mhm.
in this phase, they've ended up, making the shows and movies themselves set up.
Mhm.
So it sucks because, like I said before, it takes away from the characters of their own shows
Mhm.
that sets up as someone else's show,
Yep. Like
which
Hawkeye,
is
that's what that ended up as, was a setup for Echo. And it's like, oh,
hmm
cool, but I wanted a Hawkeye show. It's just, I
yeah,
don't, I'll watch Echo only because Kingpin and Daredevil are gonna be in it. But it's
yeah,
just because, like, oh, thanks, I wanted Hawkeye, and now it's Echo. Cool.
yeah,
Yippee.
yeah. But I mean, at this point, I just want the phase to be over, like you said. So
Yeah.
I'm just hoping that they learn from this phase and going into phase 5,
Mhm.
actually take notes on what they did wrong and
Yeah,
don't do it
seriously.
again.
Yep. Because
So,
for this movie, like the only like thing of connections I had to the other ones were Wolverines cameo, which was good.
yeah,
And thankfully you already talked about that in the first half, I'm pretty sure.
yeah,
So I don't think you need to repeat yourself there. But it didn't really set up anything. It was basically like, okay, here's a good story. And sure, it did at the end set up Magneto and the Brotherhood, but that wasn't
hmm
set up for another movie. That was set up for the first X-Men movie. So
yeah,
I think like they did a really good job there because it was just like, okay, here's a really cool independent story to fix the mistakes of the past by having a soft reboot. And it did a really good job with it. So that's how you do setup, I think, is like you introduce these cool characters, not to like set up 30 different side projects, but just to
yeah,
improve the story of this project. And if you want to make other things with them, then yeah, you definitely can. Because again, a lot of characters are popular and could do well in their own TV show or another movie or something like that.
hmm
But like, just the way that I feel like if they were like, okay, now we're gonna make a X-Men origin movie about Banshee, it's like, okay, no. It's just like he's
yeah,
cool, but not that cool to where I want a whole movie or show about him.
right.
And it's like
And
that's how Marvel really feels right now.
oh, honestly, yeah. But I was gonna say, like, if they had, I'm actually glad that they made First Class instead of individual origin movies because
Hmm.
I feel like that would just take too long to do.
Definitely.
I mean, and like it's in the middle of their, basically in the middle of their franchise.
Yeah.
So they're not like starting out with it. They're like throwing it in the middle. So I don't think that would work out too well. And
Hmm.
obviously X-Men Origins Wolverine didn't work out too well.
Yeah.
So and if you compare it to Marvel, yes, characters had their individual movies before Avengers,
Hmm.
but like I said before, X-Men is about a team and not
Yeah.
about the individual person. So
Hmm.
if you were to do X-Men Origins Magneto and X-Men Origins Professor X, they'd overlap too much
Hmm.
for them to have their own movie. So I'm glad that they, rethought that and went into it
Yeah.
with First Class because that turned out so much better than an origin movie would have. So,
Yeah, definitely. Because it is different for the Avengers and stuff, because they're all their own
hmm
person. Like most of the members of the Avengers aren't like their main thing isn't just Avengers. Like they have their own
yeah,
stakes and stuff. But from like again, my very limited comic knowledge, it's like there's only a
hmm
few X-Men characters that can like have their own stories and have it be interesting. And again, Wolverine
yeah,
is definitely one of the main ones. So
hmm
it did make sense to give him an origin movie. They just did an awful job with it. But
yeah,
like most of the X-Men, it's like I'm so glad that they really didn't.
hmm
Because it's like you said, it's like yeah, none of them are interesting so on their own.
yeah,
So it's like yeah, you have to put them in. That's the main draw of the X-Men is that they're a team. And again, this movie did a good job making them a team. And it's
hmm
like yeah, again, as much as I liked all the characters, I would hate to watch a TV show about Havoc or Angel. It's like I don't care
Yeah.
enough. Like I'll care if they're in the next movie. Like if they were like, oh yeah, we're gonna make a First Class 2, but Darwin's not in it. I'd be like, oh, that kind of sucks. But if they were like, oh, but he's not gonna be in it, but he's gonna be in his own TV show, I'd be like, oh, that really sucks. Okay, no, that's just like how Marvel feels lately, and it's just
Yeah.
stupid.
So, like, I understand. Like, some characters aren't. Well, obviously, I don't have comic knowledge, so I don't know what their backstory actually is. But some characters are just not interesting enough to have their own standalone show or movie
Hmm.
because people really don't care. Like,
Yeah,
if it's not interesting, they're not going to watch it, obviously.
yeah.
Um, and going back to Marvel using, the Marvel name, I honestly do think that that's why people have watched these shows for this long,
Hmm.
but they're losing that
Yeah.
because it's bad and people know that.
Hmm.
So they're not, sticking around to watch the whole series. Like you and me are just skimming through She-Hulk
Yeah.
because it's not interesting.
Hmm.
So there's no reason to actually watch it. And realistically, the only reason why we keep going back is because, oh,
It's
it's
Marvel.
Marvel.
Yeah.
It might have something that we, need for the whole story. So
Hmm.
we keep coming back to it. But again, we're just skimming through it. So, we know that they're losing people
Yeah.
to that. So,
Hmm.
I mean, it really sucks to see that. So,
Yeah, and especially I know they're losing people because like my mom, giant Marvel fan, she got me into Marvel, but she stopped watching after Endgame because she's like, yeah, I don't think they're gonna be good, and I was like, ah, nah, give it a chance. But then like every time I tell her the new thing comes out, she's like, yeah, I'm glad I stopped watching them, and I'm like, yeah. It's just like that's how it is. My mom isn't a fan anymore because I tell her how bad the things are, and she has no interest in watching anything else really. Like she said she'll watch
yeah,
like the new Avengers movies when they come out, but like that's
yeah,
it. And again, that's just like a couple of years away. So it's just like,
right,
yeah, nothing like they're definitely losing fans. So they need their own First Class to really bring everything together.
yeah,
And even though like I know the Fave 5 slate, like they've posted it and stuff. And
hmm
like, yeah, I am excited for Deadpool 3 and stuff because that
oh
brings
yeah,
back Deadpool and Hugh Jackman. Like again, cool X-Men characters to bring back. Like that's awesome.
hmm
But like you can't just have them carry the whole phase. Like, oh yeah, if we have one good movie, then that means the phase is good. It's like no, no,
yeah,
no. So
and
it's
it
just
should be,
like, ugh.
yeah, and it should be said that I do definitely have confidence in Deadpool 3 being a good movie because, um, I don't think Ryan Reynolds would let it be a bad movie because
Yeah, seriously.
because to my knowledge, he fought to have Deadpool made,
Hmm.
and he wouldn't let. I'm hoping
Yeah.
because he seems so into it, and I'm
Hmm.
really happy about that.
Yeah.
Like I don't think he wouldn't let this. He wouldn't let it be bad. So
Hmm.
I'm really hoping that Disney doesn't find a way that to fuck him over.
Hmm.
But I have high hopes for Deadpool 3, so
Yeah.
that I'm not too worried about.
Hmm. And I am hoping that like eventually they can, because lately Marvel has been setting up all the mutants and stuff. And I don't
hmm
know if this is a spoiler, but the guy who plays Namor, he did confirm that he's a mutant. So
hmm
I think that's cool because like again,
hmm
Namor's a mutant. They confirmed that Miss Marvel's a mutant. They showed Professor X in Multiverse of Madness, so they are
hmm
slowly bringing in the X-Men, which I think is cool. But
Yeah.
again, I hope that they can make it good, like they make good X-Men movies, like this one. But if they make X-Men movies like X-Men Origins Wolverine, which I honestly would not be surprised if Marvel does that now, their track record
Honestly.
lately. But
Yeah.
it's like I'm just hoping that they can make one like this. And again, they could probably get the cast back from this one too, and be like, "Hey, you want to be X Men again?" And I,
Oh,
if they announced that, I'd be like, "Fuck yeah!"
yeah, they definitely could
Hmm.
because I don't know. But yeah,
Yeah.
they definitely could.
Because
So
I care about these guys a lot more than all the other ones. So,
yeah.
like, because even in like the future X-Men movies, like the characters and stuff, again, like once we go back to like the status quo pretty much, where it's like, oh yeah, here's Cyclops, here's Storm, here's Jean Grey. It's like, oh yay, I don't care about any of you. So it's like if
Yeah.
they really wanted to like do like the first their first X-Men team, like I really do think they should take cue from this movie because all these characters were good and it's people I
Hmm.
cared about instead of the crappy ones. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And if they do bring them back, they need to make them good.
Hmm.
And I mean, like Jean Grey and all the others,
Yeah.
they definitely need to make them better characters from
Hmm.
what they were in, the first three movies. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
here's
I
to
do know.
hoping.
Yeah. But yeah, yeah, I think we can wrap it up now because we've talked
Yeah,
about this movie enough.
yeah.
So yeah, so that's X-Men First Class, everybody. Again, sorry this part we didn't really talk much about the movie itself, only because sorry, we've talked about it so many times now because our recording just keeps crapping out on us that it's
Yeah.
kind of getting old. But yeah, again, don't take our like disdain this part and be like we hated the movie. Like no, this movie is fucking amazing and definitely
Yeah.
watch it if you haven't. It's really good. But we're just tired of talking about it because we keep
Yeah.
having to. But
And it's funny. It's funny too because like during the second recording, where I did bring up like I would watch this movie over and over again, and
mm,
it wouldn't get too old. I would say like I could
yeah.
watch this multiple times,
Mm-hmm.
but talk about it. Apparently, I can't do that
Yeah,
multiple times.
definitely.
uh,
But
but
yeah,
yeah,
that's the movie.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
And like we've said two times before already, we'd rank this one right next to Iron Man
Mm-hmm.
because it is such a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
And our enthusiasm right now is really showing how good it was. But like honestly, it was a really good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was really enjoyable. So obvious,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna rank high up anyways.
Definitely.
And so me, I know we've both said it twice already, but we both rank it like 10 out of 10 because it's
Mm-hmm.
just so good.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah. That's First Class. Hopefully this is the last time we have to talk about it. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, definitely go check it out if you haven't. Easily 10 out of 10 movie. Next week
Mhm.
we're moving into Captain America, then the Avengers, then the ranking, and then we're done Phase 1 for a while.
Mhm.
So, yep, that's this episode. Thank you all very much for watching and dealing with us having to talk about it multiple times. But yeah, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that happy crappy stuff. Make sure to comment down below how you think we can improve the podcast and stuff, and hopefully find ways where we don't have to record it like 3 separate times.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you all very much for watching, and we will see you next time. So bye bye.
Bye.